say to everybody when I talk to you, please buy a VIP ticket. It doesn't cost any more. The ticket's the same price. Just the way you listen and the way you take in the information is the VIP style. You can do anything you want to do in life, but no one's going to give it you. The law of attraction works only if you do.
How did you pick yourself up? Especially when COVID hit, I know that was a big impact, but through recessions and times of, uncertainty.
You can't run this business and you can't save this business. You're not capable of doing it. And I looked her in the eye and I said, that's the most motivating thing you've ever said. And walked out.
Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So before we begin today's podcast, just like to say big thank you to today's sponsor, which is Casita Properties, the UK leading property company when it comes to off-market discrete buy-to-let sales. As usual, all their links will be in the description below. I have the absolute pleasure, and I'm really excited because on the way up here today, I was watching Simon Leslie's podcast with Jordan Belfort, and it's a few podcasts now I've watched of yourself, and I'm just really excited to get into it now because I think your story is incredible. So Simon, thanks so much for being here.
My pleasure. Let's get it on.
Let's do it. Look, for anyone that doesn't know yet, tell us who you are and what you do.
I'm Simon Leslie. My company is called Inc. Started in 1996, probably before a lot of you were born. And we became the kings of the in-flight magazine. That was all well and good until 2019. And then this pesky pandemic came along and ripped our business from beneath us. And over the last 2.5 years, I've gone about rebuilding it and probably, I think, we'll take it to even better, into an even better future.
Yeah, well, I'm excited to get into this podcast because as we were talking off air, I really want to sort of dive into the hardship that you would have been through, who it's made you now, but also just taking it back a step. How did you start in business and why did you pursue this sort of journey into entrepreneurship and business? Because it's not the easiest road, and this is where I kind of want to start with this.
I started 150 yards from where we're sitting. My very first job at 17 years old, I was a spotty 17-year-old, and I couldn't get a job as an estate agent, which is what I really wanted to be. And that's why I think it's interesting that you're sponsored by Casita. So, I wanted to be an estate agent. I got a job and it said, start now, earn lots of money. And I was selling insurance door to door, commission only. That was my very first job. And the ironic thing was when Inc. Really started to grow, we moved into the same building. And it still gives me goosebumps telling that story because I started at 141 to 143 Shoreditch High Street. That's where my first company was. And when we moved in there in about 2003, I think, and we were there for about 13 years until Shoreditch became so expensive that we couldn't afford to stay here anymore. And we got booted out and now we've got a beautiful office in West Hampstead. But I started as a salesman. I'm not sure if I knew I wanted to be a salesman. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I just wanted to make money. And for the first 13 years of my life, that's all I did. I just focused on making money, spending more than I was making. And the life of a salesman is that you'll make a lot of money and then you'll not make a lot of money for a while and then you'll make money again. And in between times, you rack up as much debt as you possibly can. And there's lots of theories that say, I know everything is so different today. As a 17-year-old, all I wanted was a deck system. We had a cassette, a CD and a record player, a mobile phone, because in those days I had this great big Motorola brick, and a BMW. And that's what I had. And then if I fast forward to 2018, when my 17-year-old, first thing he did was bought himself a phone. He had a BMW convertible and he had a Sonos system, but it wasn't, so is it really any different, some 25 years later, that my son wants the same things that I want? He's gone on now and he started his own business at 21. And in some ways, he's replicating what I did. He's replicating a bit of my playbook. So I don't think things have changed as much as people think they have. I think as long as you work hard, you put in the hours and you put in the commitment, and the commitment is to rapid growth, rapid learning, rapid investment in yourself. Now, if you don't do those three things and add a little bit of hard work into the recipe, you're wishing for the opportunities to come along.
Yeah.
And for 13 years, as I said, I worked hard. I didn't do any investment. I didn't do any investment in myself. I didn't learn. I had a few tapes from Zig Ziglar, which I didn't realize had so much impact on me. But I was just interested in making money, and I went from being a salesman to then being a manager. We used to park outside Shoreditch Church, and we used to we had a Renault 5, and we put 6 people in there, and we drive around the roughest parts of London, and we go knocking on doors. And that's how I got started. So if I didn't have confidence then, that definitely gave me confidence.
I love that rapid learning, rapid growth, and sort of really like seizing the moment. Do you think that there was a light bulb moment for you in life early on? Do you think you kind of knew that you were going to go into, well, not necessarily knew that you were going to go into business, but I think you almost know that you can't sit still working for someone else. There's something inside you. Did you get that feeling? And if so, was there a point you remember thinking, I'm going to do more?
I wanted to be an estate agent. So after about a year and a half, maybe 2 years of selling, I'd accumulated enough money that I bought an estate agency. It wasn't enough to go and work for someone. No one would give me a job. I'll buy my own one. And that coincided with the biggest recession, I think, of the late 80s, when property prices collapsed. People said you won't survive. I survived for about 2 years, and I accumulated some property, and it wasn't as terrible as the rest of the market. And I think it was because I wasn't thinking like everybody else. I realized that there were different ways to do deals. There were different ways to look at opportunities. And I think that, when I'm looking back now and joining the dots, that's what was different about me, is that I could see opportunities when other people saw problems.
Yeah.
I could see that there was something that could be done. There was a way to finance it when everybody else said they couldn't finance it, or there was a way to get things done when other people said, that'll take too long. So I think that's always been ingrained in me. There's this belief, I guess, the faith over fear, where I'm like, I don't care, I'll figure it out.
It's seizing opportunity, isn't it? I think so many people watch, or like you say, many people become fearful when the markets are rocky or things aren't looking up. And I think certainly from those that I know, that I've surrounded myself with, and even things that I do find that the opportunities are most when people are turning around going, I want nothing to do with it. I don't want, to offer perspective. This is something that we spoke of, off air. I really like to sort of throw this spin in terms of time length of growing, especially an international business, is this theory that you can become this millionaire in the 12 months and it's all roses and it's all sunshine and there's no hardship. Can you give us kind of like your time length of where you started the business to your sort of the peak of the business and the turnover, and then that time length, just to offer this kind of, it's going to take a while?
There's only one Steve Jobs, there's only one Elon Musk, there's only one Bill Gates. And the problem is that everybody thinks that they are the one. And that doesn't mean that there aren't people who are making millions of pounds very quickly. They are. But they are unique, and they land on something. And I've seen so many people over the years make lots of money, lose lots of money, go backwards. It's a long game. No matter what anyone tells you. Even if you make a lot of money quickly, what are you going to do? You think that'll last you a long time? You take £1 million, and if that's all you're going to make in 10 years, well, it's 80,000 a year. It's not even that great a salary. So you've got to it's got to be constant. And also, when you make £1 million, you get a standard of living. You get a standard of the way you want to live and behave and eat out and drive and wear and everything else. And then you've got to keep that going. So, it's hard to keep that momentum going. We started out in '94, and my forming years were in Africa and the Middle East. Our first airline was an airline that went from London to Beirut, one plane, one route, smallest airline in the world probably. And that was my very first client. My second client went from London to Johannesburg, stopping in Rwanda, Uganda and Tanzania. So I spent most of my business learning haggling in the souks, negotiating, tapping on the table with my ring to get people to pay me on time. Seeing wealth, seeing poverty, seeing so many different ways of how people live and cultures and foods and languages. And I just think that's what gave me so much grounding and so much
diversification. You were well-rounded almost.
Just a little bit more about humanity. Just,
Yeah.
you know, when you've seen such poverty and you've seen things in Rwanda that nobody should see, and you think, that's not, you know, how could two people do that to each other and behave that way? It does put everything in perspective. And then we went into Europe, and probably by about 2001, just before 9/11, we were just probably about to go bust. And then one day, by accident, someone paid us some money, and they didn't ask for that money back until 2003, and that money kept us in business. So I'd already had 3 failed businesses before I started this one. So this was like my last chance saloon, and I wanted this one to be a great business. And I've had 2 major heart attacks, not physical, but business heart attacks in the last decade, and lots of shocks to the business. But it's kept going, and it's that constant belief that the future is better than the present.
Yeah.
So we were always sort of trading. We were a small business, 2-3 million. I think in 2003, when we sold the business for the first time, we had £400,000 in the bank account, and we were like, this is cushy. We can afford to pay ourselves. We can afford to pay our staff. We can go on holiday. Bear in mind that I've come from what's left in the chip shop at the end of the night, because that was dinner. You know, this was living hand to mouth for a very long time. And then these guys came along and said, look, we like your business. We'd like to do something with you. And I didn't really even realise what they were saying. They were saying, you know, basically, we want to buy your business. And we're like, well, it's not for sale. No, but we'd really like to buy it. And they were backed by 3i. So 3i is the biggest private equity. I don't know if they still are, but they were at the time in the UK. And they'd given these 2 guys lots of money, and they'd burned through most of it. And their so-called digital business had gone into the ground. So they needed a proper business. And they saw me and Michael as a great opportunity and said, come on. And they kept coming back, and I kept saying no, and they kept coming back with more money. And the mad thing is, when you're negotiating and you know you desperately need the money and you've desperately got to keep saying no, that's the best way to negotiate.
Yeah.
I've got a kid on the way. I'm living in a 1-bedroom flat, and I had one kid, another kid on the way, and I need a bigger house. And the gap between my house and the big house is about £500,000. And I'm like, I need this money. I can't say no. But I kept saying no, and the price kept going up. And I think I negotiated a good deal. And then there was 4 of us. 2, one went to Eton, one went to Dartmouth, which is a top US university. My partner went, I don't know where he went. He went to some university. And me was from the School of Hard Knocks. And the chairman was from Eton. They all went to school with Boris. They were all in Boris's year. And I used to think they're sitting in a boardroom listening to what I've got to say. And it's like, doesn't matter what anybody else say, but what do you think? And I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Our chairman is now chief executive of Boots. And it's like weird. And this went on for about 7 years, and we never really grew. We dominated the world, right? We decided we're going to go after the In-Flight magazine and we're going to dominate it. We had one office in Shoreditch. All of a sudden, we got an office in Singapore. We got an office in Atlanta. Conquering 2 continents at the same time. So you want to say, how do you grow a global business? You get on the plane. My first contract in America, I phoned this airline up. An airline called AirTran Airways doesn't exist anymore. And the guy said, look, I'm about to appoint somebody. You're too late. I said, have you appointed them yet? He goes, no. I said, what are you doing for lunch tomorrow? He goes, but you're in London. I said, yeah, what are you doing for lunch tomorrow? Nothing. I said, don't sign anything. I'll buy you lunch tomorrow. And I went to the airport, got on the flight, and I won that contract. And that set me up in America. I didn't have the money. Flew economy. You know, for the first 10 years, we flew economy everywhere. No matter if it was Singapore, New Zealand, Australia, it was, sat at the back of the plane like this. And that was the journey, and it was constant grinding, winning. And the problem is when you're growing so fast and you're growing in so many markets, you don't make any money. So we were making a little bit of money, but we could never, we'd like make £1 million. That was about it. And it was just kept 1.5 million, 700, 2 million, but never any more than that.
Yeah.
All the way through. And then the world kept saying, look, it's the end of this in-flight magazine. The print is dead. You've got to get out of here. This is 2007. And we had an offer for the business. Quite a nice offer. And they were going, we've got to take it, we've got to take it. And I said, all right, let's take it. All right, it'll make us a little bit more wealthy and we'll roll it again. And then 2008 came along and they withdrew the offer. And sometimes when you've had that little taster and someone takes it away, you go, okay. And everybody was fixated on that price, the price that we've been offered. And my other two partners were just arguing the whole time. Our board meetings were like Beirut in the 80s. They were lashing and fighting. And I was like, I was Kofi Annan. I was just keeping peace the whole time. And it just got untenable because the American guy wanted to grow really fast and blue skies and digital. We've got to invest in digital. We've got to invest in digital. We've got to do digital stuff. And we started building apps. In Shoreditch, we had more developers than some big tech companies. We had 40 people at one point building an app. We built 2 apps for 2 airlines. What started off as a £100,000 project turned to 2.5 million. And it nearly killed us. So the two of them were at each other. So we broke up the partnership. And then I sacked the American guy after that. And I said to Michael, we've got to take this back. We were basically bankrupt. Deloitte's were in our office telling us they were going to shut us down. They were going to sell us, switch the lights off. And at this point, I've got about 200 people. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do? I've never been in this position before. I've just come through 2007 where the world was crazy and I took that in my stride. 2012 when the countries were going bankrupt. And here I am now. No one knows what's going on. Staff don't know. They just think everything's rosy. And here am I sitting in a boardroom. And this woman looked at me and she said, you can't run this business and you can't save this business. You're not capable of doing it. And she'd just come from Tesco's where they'd just been doing the fraud case at Tesco's. And I looked at her in the eye and I said, do you know, that's the most motivating thing you've ever said. And walked out. And cut a long story short because I'm rambling now, but we managed to raise the money to buy because the bank had called our debt in, and so I had to raise the money over a weekend, and we raised the money, and Michael and I took the business back, and that was in 2013. From that point onwards, we doubled turnover and we doubled profitability because we stuck to our knitting, we stuck to what we were good at.
Yeah,
we were just really good at keeping it simple and doing the basics really well, looking after our clients, giving them exceptional customer service, not giving them what they paid for, giving them more than they paid for. So whatever we had to do contractually, we would say, well, what more can we add to this? How can we do a better job than we're being paid for? So we never lost a client, and we just kept adding clients because people wanted to work with us because we were doing a great job.
So I've got a question for you, how did you pick yourself up, especially when COVID hit? I know that was a big impact, but through recessions and times of, uncertainty, how have you managed to pick yourself up and keep going? Because I know a lot of people, sometimes at the first hurdle they give up, sometimes at the second, third, fourth, wherever it might be. But there are people out there that could have done so well, but just couldn't pick themselves back up. And God, I can't remember the quote, but I think it was, you only lose when you stay down. So how have you, what's been in you that's been able to go away, have these conversations, almost like talking to yourself, isn't it? And maybe someone has motivated you like this woman, she said that. But if someone's watching this thinking, I'm at a stage where I've had enough, what would you say to someone to keep pushing through?
It's an interesting situation because you've got to decide, is there still something here? Is what I'm doing valuable? Will anyone care? And then I thought, well, the airlines will care. They can't sell a sandwich. They can't inspire their guests. They can't do all these things. If those magazines don't land on those planes on the first of the month, there's a big hole in their supply chain. So they're going to really care. My staff are making a good living. That's going to affect them. And actually, it's been good to me as well as a business. So as long as what you're doing that the world needs, and you have enough passion about what you do, and it's worthwhile, and people need your product. There's too many products out there today. There's too much of everything out there today, and that's the problem. And you can buy the same microphone for $20. You can buy the same microphone for $400. Maybe it's a little bit different. There's this concept of VIP listening. So you're all listening to us having a conversation. Some of you have got the cheap seats, and some of you in the VIP seats. And I like to say to everybody when I talk to you, please buy a VIP ticket. It doesn't cost any more. The ticket's the same price. Just the way you listen and the way you take in the information is the VIP style. And I think that's really important. There's so many messages that you and I are going to share, and people will just go, yeah, whatever. Now listen to what's being said. Listen to what's not being said. Listen to where you can get information from. Who can give you information that's going to help you with that problem right now? You touched on it. Who helped you? I went and found the best people. There's only 3 people you go to for advice. Someone who's done what you want to do, someone who's gone where you want to go, or someone that you'll swap places with.
Yeah.
Otherwise, not worth listening.
I like the whole VIP seat listening, because I listen to Audible all the time. So that's my biggest learning avenue is Audible, and I listen when I'm on the go. But there's a key thing with Audible. When people ask me, okay, you've listened to all these books. The problem is I've tried to listen to Audible, but I can't get in the zone. And I'll always say to them, when are you listening, or at what time are you listening? And they always have a distraction. So they're not using the VIP listening seat. They're not having that non-negotiable time to listen and educate. And I find that it comes back to, because we are in such a busy world, there's so many options. It's almost like that feeling of overwhelm. People don't actually know where to begin. And I think it's just a case of slowing it down a little bit and then picking that VIP listening seat and really honing in.
Get out of the problem. My problem was in West Hampstead, in that office. So I needed to get as far away from that problem to try and fix it. I went up to Cumbria, sat on the top of a mountain and said, right, blank sheet of paper, what am I going to do? A good friend of mine came and sat with me, and we said, right, this is what we've got to do. And he goes, what do you want it to look like? And I said, I have no idea. He said, well, come on, if you had an idea, what would it look like? Just people asking you better questions. You ask yourself a question, I don't know. Well, if you knew, I don't know. I really don't know. Okay, but if you really thought about it and you put your best thinking out, what would you do? Well, I'd do this, and then the answers start to come. And I think the problem is most people just go, I don't know, or I'm not sure, or go and ask my mum or my uncle. Now, my son's lucky because I've been through so much, so I can give him good business advice. If I was a taxi driver, or I was a painter or a decorator, he shouldn't be coming to me for advice. He should be going to somebody who's done what he wants to do. So it's really important where you go. One of my friends is a legal professional, and he deals with companies in crisis. He's my best friend. I mean, what a great friend to have when in times of needs. What is my legal position here? What can I do? How far can I push it? Can I tell them to F off? Can I tell them to go? They can't do what they did. I mean, some of the ways I talked to the partners at Deloitte was like I was playing football on the football pitch. I was like Saturday night sitting in the bath abusing them. And do you know what the ironic thing is today? There are auditors today, right? 11 years ago, they were trying to put us out of business. Today, we pay them hundreds of thousands of pounds in audit fees. There's irony for you.
Well, how important has you're talking about people that have been around you. That for me, I always mention this, but I suppose if I was to say my biggest hurdle is certainly from my background to the judgment of tattoos to working in finance to doing what I do with the people that I work. That's been my hurdle, is that, well, hang on a minute, especially with some of the old school guys and girls who are still like, they can't quite get their head round that someone could be covered in tattoos and actually working with high profile clients and stuff like that. But it really comes down to, I think, your education, the way you are, your likability factor, and also just your network. And like kind of how, just as we sort of come to a close, how important throughout your whole journey has your those that have been around you, that positive circle of 5, 10, 15, how important has that been for you?
It's changed. The 5 that I had at the beginning and the 5 I had in the middle and the 5 at the end, 2 or 3 of them are the same, but the rest have changed and they keep changing. I keep finding better people. When I wanted to exit, I found somebody who's exited multiple times, and I sat and talked with him about what were my options. It's been a crazy journey. Just to finish the story, we got to 2019. We were on track to do 150 million in 2020. It was going to be the best year of our life, and we did nothing. I wrote a book called There's No F in Sales, which was the biggest mistake I probably could. No, it's only a joke. It was a great book. It is a great book. Someone just texted me on the way in this morning and said, I've just started reading it and it's blowing my mind. It's a great book, but what a title. Don't write. If you put something down on paper, it's going to happen, right? I've gone from September 19, flying, March 2020, zero, -0.
Well, in fact, Tom, can we have that book? Could we just have the book behind you, mate? We'll keep all this in the clip. Let's just show this book so people can, and then what we'll do is we'll include the link in the description. So, and obviously you've kindly bought a copy. So, is this the book that you? This is another one.
That's my third book, actually.
This is the third book.
This is the diary of the last 25 months.
Oh wow!
And what I did, how I went. If people want to know how to get through any challenges, that's the book to read, because there's 50 conversations with people like Jordan Belfort, Chris Voss, Tim Grover, Tim Story, Alison Levine, who climbed Everest, Shannon Huffman-Paulson, who was the first woman to fly an Apache helicopter. There are the most amazing people who came to my help, who came in and supported me. They just came in and they did an hour, sometimes 2 or 3 hour talks to my team, and they were there. And what I started to do was just document from February 2020 to December 21, everything that happened and where I went. I went to some dark, horrible places, how I got myself out of it, who I used, and also all the messages that these guys gave me, which I thought were helping my team, but actually were really helping me.
I think this is incredible. I think from what you managed to do, and I know Stephen Bartlett did a very similar thing when in times of crisis, when the company was potentially at its lowest, is bringing in people that can, because the team are going to pull you through. And that's what I really liked about what you did, is that I can imagine, if you're under that company and you're thinking, what the hell is going on? I've got to feed the family. We're going to lose our jobs. And bringing in those people to re-motivate them, to keep the ship afloat, I thought was brilliant. I'm going to include all 3 books in the description below. Simon, just as we finish, let's ask for a top tip. What would be your top tip for people watching this right now who are aspiring for more in life, whether that's business, personally, whatever it might be? What's kind of your life lesson that you've learned?
You've got to find love in what you're doing. And love comes in very different guises. I love playing football, but I was never good enough to be a professional footballer. I love playing tennis. I'm the second best tennis player in the UK. I'll tell you that. No. I played 100 games last year and I came second in every single one of them.
I love to use that one, by the
way. But what I realised was I love negotiating the deals. I love closing the deals. I love doing the deals. Not necessarily closing, because closing has the wrong connotation. I like doing deals. And that's what I've done for the last 33 years in different guises and different sizes. I've just got bigger and bigger and better at it. But that's what I love. And if you find something that you love, that you're good at, don't worry about what you're not good at. Don't worry about your weaknesses. Everyone says, yeah, strengths are really important, but you've got to really forget your weaknesses. Who cares? Focus on your strengths. What you look like today, in my day, you wouldn't have got a job. But today, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you look like, what education you've got, where you come from. You can do anything you want to do in life. But no one's going to give it you. The law of attraction works only if you do. There's my final tip.
That's an amazing finish. Simon, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you on the channel, and I know so many people are going to take a lot of value away from this. So it's been an absolute pleasure. Everyone who has watched, thank you so much, and we will see you all very soon.